God gave man a brain and a penis and only enough blood to run one at a time. Robin Williams. What are some real-life examples of this? I was living in a house share with a couple of mates back in uni, and my door was right next to the front door. While my mates were out, my girlfriend came over and decided to surprise me with a blowjob while I was gaming. A few minutes into it, we hear the keys in this front door and realized she'd left my bedroom door wide open. In a sudden panic and a very blood-deprived brain, I picked up a textbook and hurled it at the door. My aim was, in my mind, the book would hit the door and close it. This did not happen. It merely made a very loud bang. My girlfriend stops and stares at me like I'm a moron, and my housemates come into my room to see what the noise was. Happened to me the other day kinda. First time with the girl I like, and I was going down on her. She finished and said fuck me. I could have been a load-bearing wall during that. Then I go to take my boxers off and I couldn't keep it up. Then the nerves snowballed and took a while to get it up. I felt really bad. BC I actually liked this girl and it was just sad and embarrassing. Oh my goodness, my BF does the exact same. Talking about his day while gaming on a PS5. And I'll start changing and he goes from intently focused on the game and perfect sentences to stuttering and pushing the wrong buttons. I purposefully stand outside of his peripheral sometimes so he has to choose lol. Helen of Sparta, the Spartan queen, eloped with Paris, some trust fund rich kid from Troy, who was tagging along a diplomatic mission from Troy to Sparta. Her husband Menelaus, the king of freaking Sparta, was understandably enraged, and he pulled all the favors in building a coalition that ended up erasing Troy off the face of the earth. But Helen almost caused another city to get erased before that, and that city is Athens. Well, no, to be fair, she didn't cause it. It was a bunch of guys who almost did, fighting over, for her. Remember Theseus, hero and awesome guy, right? Killed the Minotaur. He became king of Athens because that's how awesome he was. And then he got older and turned rotten. He kidnapped Helen when she was very young, perhaps a preteen. Castor and Pollux, the twins, or the Geminis in the constellation, were Helen's brothers. They raised a huge army and marched on Athens, vowing to tear down every building in search for Helen. On the outskirts of the city they met a guy named Ocadmos, who begged the Gemini to not destroy the city. He was going to tell them where Theseus was hiding Helen, in exchange for the twins not razing the city. They agreed, Helen was saved, and Athens was spared destruction. Ocadmos was gifted a piece of land by the city council for his deeds, and the land eventually became a sort of park or grove planted with olive trees. Centuries later, Plato's favorite place to give lessons was the park that initially belonged to Ocadmos, hence the term academy. Dude actually did it. Honestly, I thought about something like that when I was a young teenager, but I had seen it go horribly wrong on a movie or TV show with a vacuum and thought it would rip my dick off. Plus I doubt doing something like that would even feel good. I mean, it's just hard plastic and a suction feeling would probably hurt after a while, but I've never done it, so maybe someone more adventurous can chime in. Sort of lost a best friend over that. My best friend from high school found and married a girl that my wife and I loved. We became the classic double date foursome. Apart from that though, she was what you'd consider the dream girl for a lot of men. She liked sport, she liked nerdy stuff, she was into comics. She didn't play video games but was happy to sit and watch her husband play video games with a story. So fast forward a few years. They have 2 kids. We have 2 kids. Her mom died a few months before their second was born, so she was struggling a bit. Anyone could understand why she'd be having a hard time. Her husband, my friend, was working later and later, and once when we met up at sport he was telling me about going out clubbing on the town with for his young female colleague's birthday. Sounds sus. I'm sure his wife was okay with it because she always was, but I would never even think about doing it with an infant and a toddler at home. So yeah, a few months later he sends a sneaky group chat to me and our other good mate. We're separated but don't tell anybody. My wife asked his wife and yep, he was fucking a younger employee from his workplace, where he was manager. while his wife was at home with their 1-year-old kid and other toddler, grieving her dead mother. He didn't know I knew and kept up the lie for months that they'd just grown apart. I pretty much cut him out of my life after that, and my wife has flat out said the new girl is never welcome in our home. One of my students was caught with a belt around his neck by his parents. His father immediately realized what is going on since his pants were down. The mother, confused, thought he is trying to commit suicide, ignoring the pants completely and focusing on the blue face. In the conservative country of Singapore, and conservative ethnicity of Indians, the situation led to quite a bit of hurt. Mother was confused and deeply hurt that dad is showing no concern for suicidal son. Son leveraged the suicide angle and let go of his studies completely. He was showered with love by the mother. I recommended couples counseling. Psychologists sorted it out in 1 week. Things were back to normal next time the kid came, and we never talked about it again. I'll do you one better. I went to the store to get some stuff for dinner, and the checkout girl was super cute. I went through the store and deliberately purchased ingredients for a nice, involved meal, hoping she would ask about it. I finally go to check out through her line, and she asks what I'm making. It worked. She said I should bring her some, and told me what time she got off. I said good to know, and left. You know, like a serial killer. This was only a few months ago. But it's one of those things you know you'll never forget, and every now and then when you're trying to sleep your brain reminds you of what a goddamn stumbling buffoon you were. I should mention, this isn't exactly the kind of thing that happens to me on a yearly basis. Whale fucking. No joke. Each year, on February 1st, in the Molokai Channel, a few men compete in the world's only whale fucking contest. Humpback whales are easy to fuck for a second or less. World record, 31 seconds. I competed once. Almost got my ribs crushed. Stick with ostriches. Also John McAfee, June 23, 2018. Followed with this gem on December 31, 2018 after months of arguing over animal sexual consent after his whale tweet. Enough of the whale fucking is non-consensual bullshit. A humpback whale weighs 70,000 pounds, is 50 feet long, can dive more than a quarter mile and can crush ships with the single swipe of its tail. If a human manages to fuck one, you damn well better believe it's consensual. This guy lived most of his life thinking with one over the other. Fun fact. In BDSM circles there is a phenomenon known as sub-drop. It refers to occasions where you go from being very aroused and into whatever you're doing, which for some folks can include normally undesirable things like degradation, denial, etc., to having a somewhat sudden lucidity about your situation accompanied by sometimes rather extreme, negative emotions. This kind of situation is dealt with by, firstly, going slow with whatever you're doing, not pushing too many boundaries too far at once, and aftercare, which is basically where you have nice, safe, and positive non-sexual interactions with whoever you're playing with until you feel normal again, or do something to make yourself feel good if you're alone. When I learned this as a gay, it occurred to me that sub-drop and post-nut clarity are basically the same phenomenon. Although I really don't like the term post-nut clarity because what you experience in these situations is not actually clarity. It's more akin to a rapid withdrawal response. If arousal is a drug, and it does function similar to one in terms of body chemistry, then sub-drop and post-nut syndrome is what happens when you go from being flooded with arousal, to suddenly having none. And while your body balances your hormones, it can really fuck with you. If you're engaging in new sexual exploration, you're more likely to experience feelings of disgust, regret when you're done, even if what you did was perfectly normal and okay. And sometimes, you might act on those feelings of disgust, regret, and then 15 minutes later wonder why you did that. For example, if you bought a sex toy for the first time, you could freak out and throw it away after using it, but then feel like an idiot for throwing it away. Now certainly it's possible you do something in your lust-filled state that really isn't healthy, and you might need to address that, but it's important you do so with a clear head, and not right after you're done jerking off. Wait until you're feeling completely normal before thinking about if your sexual behavior was okay or you want to avoid it in future. Sometimes people really beat themselves up and feel out of control of their sexual behavior because every time they fap or they finish feeling regret and telling themselves never again, only to be tempted again and again by the same thing because they only set that boundary when they're feeling negative, and so later on it doesn't seem as bad. Fact is, a lot of people have weird and sometimes extreme sexual kinks and fetishes. You can't necessarily control if you're aroused by certain things, but you can decide not to be tempted by them, if that's what you want. Just do not rely on being disgusted at yourself to do that work for you, because when you're aroused again you won't be disgusted. Alternatively, you might decide that those feelings of disgust are actually not really warranted, and similarly, telling yourself that, for example, it's actually okay if I like to put stuff in my butt occasionally when you're not feeling aroused, nor anti-aroused, is a good way to mitigate those feelings of confusion/regret/disgust you might have gotten initially, and know that you truly accept your behavior and are not just a slave to your arousal. Dr. Post-nut clarity is not clarity. Arousal is an emotional upper and post-jizz is an emotional downer. Chill out and give it 15-30 minutes before reflecting on your fapping behavior. Then make mental assessments of your behavior, acceptance or rejection, and adjust in future as, if necessary. Master your sexy time to maximize fun and avoid the bad feels. I ran into a true moral quandary in my early 20s. I was at a bar, and started talking with this girl sitting at the bar. She was great, super funny, just a really nice lady. I asked her if she wanted to go have a drink at my place, and she said sure. She gets up, and she's got crutches. I made a stupid joke that she came prepared, cause she was gonna really need them after we got through with the night. She said, I know, unless your dick can cure muscular dystrophy. And at that moment I realized she didn't have a broken leg or sprained ankle like I'd assumed. She may have even mentioned it, and I didn't hear her. I am really hard of hearing, and it was a loud club. So now I'm like, is it discrimination to have a one-nighter with her, knowing I'll probably never call her again? Or is it discrimination not to have a one-nighter with her, knowing I'll never call her again? One time at the mall, I was wearing a dress that was pretty low-cut, with a decent amount of cleavage. Decided to go to Auntie Anne's for a pretzel. The guy working at the register kept staring at my chest, and when I paid with cash, he proceeded to give me back the bill I originally paid with, along with my change that was supposed to be given to me. So not only did I get it for free, but I made a few extra dollars on it too. Maybe not exactly what the op is looking for, but I finally get to share this story. I was gathering grocery store carts at work in the parking lot. I notice a dude pull in the driveway in an SUV. Now to be honest, I don't look in people's cars especially when they're in it because I don't want to come off as a creep, but this one was hard not to notice as this man started making out with his girlfriend, or wife, I don't know. Then I noticed he was moving forward and he was so focused on kissing his soul. I tried to get his attention without risking my life of course, but he then plowed right into another car. Thankfully no one got hurt, so I can laugh about it. After he looked around, I looked straight at him and said, I tried to get your attention. I think it was a hit and run as well to make it worse, but that's my your brain was replaced with you penis moment. I attempted to woo a girl who I absolutely did not realize only liked the attention and had zero plans on having any sort of real relationship with me. This went on for about 2 or 3 weeks before one night we were out at a bar and she asked me to get her a drink. I was at the bar ordering when I saw her across the way flirting with another guy. In a moment of clarity I realized this P was never gonna see that vaggie. I paid for the drinks, drank them both, and went to hang out with some other friends who were also there. She later came looking for me to ask me where her drink was. I said, hey, I know what's happening here, thanks but I know when to call it. She was like, well maybe if you get me another drink you can come over later. I was like nah. That was the end of that. I used to travel a lot for a job. One weekend I had to go to insert name of big city in North America for a job and met a coworker there who I didn't know too well. All I knew was that he was married, had 2 little kids, and was a good salesman. He was on the rise. We went to a bar and my coworker starts chatting with this very attractive woman. They're hitting it off, drinking fast and furiously, and getting very touchy-feely. She then tells us that her sister is getting married the next day and she wants my coworker to be her date. He gave me this, "Oh well, what can I do?" look and shrug. She grabbed his hand and they were gone. 2 days later, he's tagged all over Facebook and Instagram at this wedding. This woman had posted dozens of pictures of them slow dancing, sitting on each other's laps, laughing with her family, and looking like Romeo and Juliet madly in love. She had tagged him in every picture. Last I heard he was living in some friend's apartment basement. Okay, I can share one of these. The time I used my brain when I should have used my penis. In high school my parents were out of the house until late. At school I mentioned that my parents were going to be gone for a while to 2 girls I was friends with. They then asked if they could come over and hang out since my parents were gone and I said sure, thinking it was a little weird because they'd never been to my house before, but whatever. They come over to the house and ask to see my room, and I take them to my room. They start toing and ahhing over my super normal teenage room. They take a particular interest in my bed, but I start showing them the computer I built and was super proud of. They both climbed into my bed and start telling me about how my computer is super cool and I'm so smart, but that they really like my bed and start tickling each other and making sexual jokes. I take their comments about my computer as genuine interest in my computer, so I then proceed to play video games on it while they watch for hours until my parents come home. They looked super bored the entire time just watching me play video games sitting on my bed. They're both bisexual BTW. Anyway, that is the story of the time I used my brain when I should have used my penis. I work at a car dealership. Literally today, 2 sales managers were fired for having sex with the receptionist. The same receptionist. Both managers were married men. Not sure if they knew they were both fornicating with the same woman. They decided, when they were through with her, to ghost her, not thinking of the consequences. Turns out, she got fed up and told the GM, general manager, and quit right there on the spot, but not before letting everyone in the dealership know. These guys just cost themselves a $200,000 job because they were thinking with their dicks. Heating up a banana in the microwave because it's supposedly, according to early days internet, supposed to feel like a vagina, and Lord knows you won't be getting near one of those in a hurry. What with being a teenager who got hit by the puberty truck so hard that you gained serious pounds. So, you heat it up nicely, slide it between the couch cushions and go to town. It burns you a bit, but no matter, you don't notice. Not in the heat of the moment. It's a hellish scene. Your mom asks you a week later if you spilled yogurt on the couch. You deny it, but only because you're distracted by the sword chafing on your burnt penis. You won't be doing that again, supposedly. Anyway, I don't fucking know. One time I had a job interview and it was one of those few times in life that I decided to get serious, so I prepared myself for real to nail the interview. All the blood was in my brain while I waited to be called in. Then when I entered there was this woman who, I swear to Cleopatra, was the cutest looking woman with a huge chest. Then the blood went to penis and I don't even know how it happened, but I let out a yes. Just stared right at her with my mouth open and almost exhaled it out. Like yes. She immediately said, "Excuse me?" and then I became so conscious that I mumbled a nothing and lost all my confidence to do well in the interview. I found out my ex, while we were together, cheated on me in the middle of the night when her phone was blowing up, so I woke her up and confronted her about it, and fucked me stupid, I ended up staying with her way too long after that until I caught her in the act with my roommate. I later found out she fucked his little brother, our neighbor, and 2 guys I worked with. Still to this day she's the only bona fide nymphomaniac I ever been with. My self-esteem was in shambles. I'm good now though, thanks for asking.